So I work out of a small shop. No, like really, a very small shop. If you're wondering, it's about 9.5 by 9.5 feet. We're talking really, really small. But because of this, there's just certain tools that I can't justify owning. Now, at the same time, I want to make good-looking woodworking projects. The problem is that YouTube sometimes makes it seem like you need a particular tool.
The joiner.
This is my 8-inch joiner.
And I ran him through the joiner.
Yeah, that's right, a jointer. The problem is, I don't have space for one. So today, I'm going to show you how I joint boards in my very small woodworking shop. I'll admit it, my shop is just a shed powered by an extension cord. This here is the first step that I use, besides cutting the thing down to length. I made this sled out of an old offcut piece of cheapy standard plywood. That's all it is, but it's flat enough, and I made myself a little cleat over here. Let me show you how I use this thing as step one in making boards flat. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look and just make sure that I don't have any rock. And I do. I have a little bit of rocking in here. And so the next step is just grabbing some shims. So for me, I use these things here, just little offcuts that I've ripped off of other boards and projects. And so I'll just stick that under there and try to get this board to not move on me. And that made it worse. Let me see if I've got anything the right thickness. I'm just going to break off a piece of this here, one of the thinner parts of it, and slide it just barely underneath to stop that rocking. And then again, over here, I'll just add a little piece. And if you notice this, where you put it and put your stuff in and it actually makes it worse, it means that you're using too thick of a shim, is what I've found. And so you just got to find something else, literally just any little pieces of wood that you have sitting around in your shop. And see, now that side needs to be propped up a little bit. Doesn't help that there's almost nothing on that side. Another thing that helps is if you can get your board as close to your finished dimension as possible, that's great. The next thing is my secret weapon. It's my Ryobi glue gun. So I'm just going to turn that on and I'm going to let it heat up, and then we're going to glue this thing in place. So we come in here and I lay down some glue just in a few places. And we'll let that dry for a little bit, just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere when we add it to the planer. While I'm waiting for it to dry though, let's go ahead and mark up the top so that we know when it's flat. So for that, I'm just going to use a carpenter's pencil. Hey, you know, while we're waiting for that glue to dry, what would really help me out is right now if you went down and you subscribed and gave a thumbs up to this video. So the next thing that I have to do is take my sled and adjust so that we're just barely taking anything off the top. Put it in here. And we're going to start like that. I'll lock it down. And off we go. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a putty knife, and I actually did the glue up section of this video yesterday. That's why I'm in a different shirt today. So this hot glue is actually a lot harder than I usually prefer it to be, but we're going to just carefully get our putty knife underneath here until we can start to pry the glue up, just like that. You can see here, pried that up. And we can just peel all that old glue off. just like that. Stuff anything left on the end, you can get in there with a putty knife if you want to. Or if you're just going to be cutting the end off, it really doesn't matter, and you can just get rid of that. So there we go. Got this. This side here is flat, and so what I like to do here, I saw it on, I think it was a Cat's Moses video or something like that, just putting a little fish mark there, just to let me know that I've now jointed that face. Now this board here, it's pretty ratty, so instead of just flipping over and doing the other side on the planer, I'm actually going to show you how I joint the edges without a jointer, and then we'll come back and we'll do the planer. So I'm just going to grab my little jointing sled that I made. This is nowhere close to perfect, but this is what I have been using to joint smaller pieces like this one here. So it's literally just a piece of plywood with a factory edge that will run against my table saw fence. And then right here, I've got these clamp down type toggles. I think they're called toggle clamps. Down the road, what I actually want to do is I've picked up the micro jig dovetail match fit system. And so I want to take this assembly here off and actually do dovetails going down here so that I can clamp no matter what the size is. But let me show you really quickly what we're going to do with this guy here to get one edge jointed so that we can follow up and do the other side without a jointer. Okay, so here we have our board. This is our jointed face. I'm gonna flip it over like this, and then what I'm going to do is take it over here. Now this one, it's going to have some issues probably for me, and this is the reason I want to switch over to the match fit system. Is this is about the smallest type of board that I can do on this. But what I'm going to do here is I kind of set these up to the thickness that I need and the depth that I need, and I try to get this as kind of square as possible so that I'm minimizing the amount of material that I'm wasting to everything. And I'm going to clip these down like that. One needs to be a little bit longer, I think. So clamp it down. There we go. So that's not going anywhere. It's nice and firm. So now let me show you what we do over here at the table saw to make sure that everything is getting cut straight. So the first thing I'm going to do here, because my saw blade, I know this thing is set perfectly 90 degrees, so there's no worries here about that. I'm now just going to set everything up so that the saw blade, the highest tooth goes about half a tooth taller than the edge of this board here. The saw is unplugged right now. And then I am going to take this here and move my fence over until I am just taking off just a hair, like that there kind of thing, maybe a bit more just to be safe. I've got some nasty stuff here that I don't like, so we're going to bring that over like that. We're going to lock it into place, and then always dust mask for this kind of stuff, and we'll just take a little bit off, keeping it nice and close to the fence. Now that I've done that, just going to unclamp this thing here. At that point, I now have a clean face here and a clean edge. No jointer needed. At this point here, we are at the point where we are doing exactly what somebody with a jointer would be doing, except I didn't have to fill my shop with one. Now, don't get me wrong. If I could have a jointer in this room, I would get one. In fact, one was offered to me and I had to say no for the time being, just because I don't have the room. So let me finish this off. I'm going to clean up these edges here. Yes, in case you're wondering, in a small shop, everything's a struggle. I'm constantly moving things around, but that is what it is to be working in like 9.5 feet by 9.5 feet. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this down so that it is parallel to this. So we will put the jointed face down the jointed side against my fence. I'm going to have to reset my blade height because it is currently way too high. And then we're going to set the fence to where it needs to go. All right, so I'm not going to bother right now doing the other side. I don't actually need this board for anything right now, and all you would do is you would put the jointed face down through your planer, maybe mark up this face with a pencil, and then you can put it through the planer until all those pencil marks are gone. And just to show you that this does work, okay, you'll see here, we throw a square on this thing like this, and it is perfectly squared edges, all right? That is what we're looking for. No jointer needed. Does it take longer? Absolutely. Is it annoying? Yes. But when you have 9.5 feet by 9.5 feet to work with, you got to do what you got to do. I hope this has helped you out. If it has, make sure that you give this video a like so other people can find it. Leave a comment about what things in a small shop you'd like to see, or if you have any suggestions or tips and tricks that can do this maybe better without a jointer. I would love to hear about those. I'll be doing my best to respond to every reasonable comment that is left, so make sure that you do that. Let your friends know about this channel. I'm hoping to get into this a lot more, to share some of my experience, some of the projects I'm doing, and how I do them in a small shop with limited tools. Thanks everybody. Make sure that you drop that like, that subscribe in there, and we'll see you again hopefully in a couple of weeks here with another video.